good morning. I don't think I'll need a microphone. My name is Rick Hambrick, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about master data management. We're going to blow through these slides pretty quickly. I'm going to focus on a couple of the key slides, and obviously you'll have these available to you another time. So first, Leidos Health. Actually, this is a little bit backwards. This is my background, since it's the first time I've shared any time with you guys, so I want to make sure I gave you a little background on me. I used to be the IT director at Grady Children's at Scripps Health. I also should have consulted with Ken when I named my company C3, which means consolidate, collaborate, and communicate. Oh. So we're going to have a little lawyer conversation, I guess. I'm just kidding. I've been in healthcare technology for 18 years, 14 years on the provider side, consulting and then running the IT departments and PMO departments in between. I call myself a business technologist because I think that they have to go together. You can't talk about IT separately from talking about business, and you can't talk about business separately from IT. So, as you alluded to earlier, we have to bring this together. We can't have IT conversations, we can't have business conversations. These need to be codependent on each other. I did used to play golf professionally. Now I'm a +2, which is actually not too bad considering I only get out on nights and weekends. My wife Jennifer and I share a home with 3 dogs and an African gray parrot who doesn't shut up, basically. Talks all day. Conference calls, no problem. Talks all day. So what is master data management? And I'm just going to, again, you'll have these slides and I'm going to give you kind of an overview of what this is. My goal here is for you to understand what the term MDM means and how is it going to impact you as you discuss things like mobility and security and other things. We've heard a lot already about data analytics. We've heard the term big data. Okay, so it used to be, the question was, how do we get data? We need data, we need data. Now we have it, what do we do with it? So we have all this data, we even have big data, and you'll see a slide on that in a second. But how we use that so that it's actionable, so that we can do something about the information that we see, and that it's absolutely accurate and consistent across all your enterprises. Okay? So master data management, or MDM, and those of you in the mobile space will also know there's another MDM called mobile device management, which allows you to set apps and wipe devices remotely and those kind of things. So master data management is, in a nutshell, providing a golden record for each attribute in your system. For example, a person's name, an employee's name, a patient's name, any kind of record that's a non-transactional record. Create one single golden record and have all those subsystems read and be fed from that one record. So when you're talking about analytics and data and how do we make reports that are accurate, how do you know that they are? You've got this huge foundation of information. And I'm going to run a report on Scott Crowitz here. Scott Crowitz's name exists in 35 systems. Which Scott am I looking at? Which report am I looking at? How accurate can it be or can't it be? Until I consolidate that information around an architecture like master data management. So we talked about big data and what are we going to do with it. The lack of master data, obviously it's poor business intelligence, whatever you use that for, be it decision tracking or making more responsive to your organization by knowing information ahead of time. I used to tell people, if you meet to talk status, you've already failed. You should already know the status. You need to meet to talk about removing obstacles, getting things out of the way, how we're going to progress. If you're just meeting to talk about status, you're behind the 8 balls because you already know that information. Okay? So some of the benefits of MDM are pretty obvious in the beginning. Business intelligence is one of the biggest ones. And I define business intelligence as being actionable and reliable. As we started bringing all this data in, we had to think about what we're going to do with it. And all the BI people who worked in IT, who were segregated in some room, fed some food every once in a while, don't talk to anybody, created a bunch of charts and graphs and a lot of interesting things around business intelligence. And that bubbled up to the executive branch, to most of the people like you in this room. And you looked at it and said, well, that's impressive, but what do I do with all this? What story does it tell me? Does this make me pick up the phone and do something? So we need to make sure that our business intelligence and data analytics, be they historical or predictive, be accurate and actionable. Okay, it doesn't matter without those two. Data quality is another part of it. If you talk about the reliance piece of how accurate the information is, NMDM is a data quality and governance process and procedure. This is not a technology that you shift off to the IT department. This is about putting governance around information. This is about having business users and business drivers of what information is valuable and what is not. What will be part of our entity diagram? Who is master data? Is it the patient's name? Is it an address of a facility? What is it, and how do we manage it consistently? Again, it's not a technology, okay? It's not an enterprise data warehouse. It is a feeding system to an enterprise data warehouse. But when you ask your guys now today to go into the EDW and say, produce me a report, a global report on this piece of information, they have to actually do the work of what normally is done by an MDM, which is figure out which source system this stuff came from, how to turn it into something that's meaningful, and they do the best they can, but I guarantee you, you're missing something. At Leidos Health, which is a national consulting firm in healthcare IT, we are a subsidiary of SAIC. We used to be Vitalize and Max IT and those kind of guys. So our internal department, IT department, which is my purview, we have 8 systems where somebody's name is in it. That's ridiculous if you look at provider side. You're going to have hundreds of systems maybe. You've got any kind of business is going to have a bunch of internal systems, and if you look at EHR as the standard, it's not. If you look at ERP as the standard, it's still not. You still have disparate data in those systems. And it's not a financial analysis engine. And the only reason I say that is MDM is developed for non-transactional data. So stuff that's changing all day, every day, best left to the financial system and not to master data management. It's not designed for that fast-changing type of information. So what is the candidates of MDM? What are they? What could they be? Unstructured data. This is email, corporate intranet data. Sometimes portal information I treat as MDM candidates, sometimes not. Transactional data relates to sales and deliveries, invoices, and those kind of things. Metadata, which is data about other data. But the true candidate for MDM is the critical nouns of your business. Okay? That is people, things, places, concepts within those subject areas, domain areas, or entity types. For example, within people there are customers, employees, salespeople. There's a chain of information around your entities. Entities is a MDM type of word where you're saying, what is my first entity? Is it peer person, or employee? Is it patient? Is it facility, location? Any type of subdomain within your data architecture framework. You can grab that, create it as an MDM entity, and then you have this connection between all the entities of that framework. Okay? So, it sounds huge. It is huge. Success of master data management, again, I can't impress upon this anymore. This is a business process. It requires strong governance. It requires strong business process oversight. And the technology and the architecture that you use is a facilitator. Okay? It is not the MDM proper. Okay? It's the way to make it happen. You have to have data stewards that sit on committees that monitor the information consistently to make sure that this is the right entity still. This is the right piece of information still. We'll talk in a second about, like, okay, who's going to look for matching and deduplication? That's a data steward's role in an MDM framework. So someone has to be named to do that. That has to be their new job. So a lot of times in IT, when we come up with new ideas, you guys realize that we shift roles from one person to another. So you say, well, what's the reason why we should have this? Well, then we don't have to have these 4 people looking up information all day. So we get back to the economy of not having to have those positions. But you just added 4 more in IT or data stewards to cover what they did before. So it's a little bit of give and take. Somebody has to decide who is the duplicate and who is not the duplicate, so to speak. In the context of things that you're going to discuss today, like mobility and big data, there's actually a new job. Some of you guys know there's a new job called data scientist. That's a new person's role. They usually come at the PhD level. Data scientists are going to be the new VPs of IT, the new CIO types. These guys are going to emerge as some of the biggest players in technology in the next 20 years. Okay, but in terms of things like mobility and AHA follow-up and all of that implies in healthcare and other business verticals, it's a good foundation to understand that, look, the challenges of all that can't be met until you consolidate this information, until you know that you have the right piece of information at the right time. Then you can go on to things like, all right, we have it, now let's make this mobile. Now let's make this mean something. Now let's make this into some meaningful business intelligence. But if you don't, you're just traveling down the path of the next wave without the foundation in place. And that's kind of the idea around MDM. You don't all have to do it or undertake it or spend the money on it, but just to give you an idea of things that are out there available to you. So we call this the employee candidates. A quick example. As I said before, just like I was using Scott, I want to get a report on John Smith. I don't know which John Smith I have, because in one HRIS system, he's Jonathan Smith because that's his birth name. In another system that he was put in, he's John Smith because that's his given name or what he goes by every day. In another system, they misspelled his name. So in all these, I'm telling you, it's personal experience with just 7 of them. 7 systems, 7 people inputting the same piece of information. The chances of those becoming inaccurate across that chain are really high, and it's almost in the 90th percentile. There are going to be differences and mistakes. Master data management systems can not only tell you who is the right John Smith, but it can also update the downstream systems automatically to that one golden record. So for us, we use a CRM called Sage, okay? HRIS system called UltiPro. UltiPro is the de facto golden record for John Smith. If you go into Sage and you change Jonathan Smith to John, by the time you refresh, it changes right back again. Because everything downstream. And sometimes we have to get compliance by beating them over the head with the fact that this is just not going to change. You keep changing this person's name, it still changes right back again by the time you refresh the page. So we have one golden record, propagates through all the subsystems. Not a ton of rocket science behind all that. We talked about all this before. So here are some closing thoughts from me. 2 of my favorite quotes. Give me 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. It's from Abraham Lincoln. This is a definitive quote around planning, how important planning is. If you tell me I have a 12-week project to do, I'll tell you the first 4 or 5 weeks are definitely going to be planning. We're not touching anything. Discovery and planning are the most critical parts of any project's success. Also, do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good, from Voltaire. This is something that you all live and breathe with every single day. What is good and what is perfect? If it's not right, let's just keep going. This is sort of agile mentality, those kind of things. A quick example around MDM. How easy do you think it is for people who run a 7-Eleven to find, say, a box of bolts? There's only one box of bolts in the 7-Eleven, by the way, or washers, if you're lucky. There's only one. What's the same challenge if you were at Home Depot? It's just not just as easy, right? We implemented the MDM program at Home Depot for contractors because of all the locations have different SKU numbers, different things they call them at every Home Depot is all different. You think they're franchised? Some of their SKU tags are different. So when you go to another Home Depot, it's different. You wouldn't notice. But if I was online, I wanted this box of bolts, I need to know exactly that they're all connected. So it was a big project and it works. It's a good example of how MDM brings disparate information back together again. Cool.